Hey, Garrett.
Hey, Dean, how are you?
Good, thank you, sir. Okay, Garrett. So tell folks a little bit about you, and then I have a two-part question. What the heck is a fractional CMO, and what does a fractional CMO do in the first 90 days or so of a new engagement?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I
Sure.
am a fractional CMO and a go-to-market strategy consultant for early stage B2B startup companies. So, a lot of my clients are software, half of them are services, about
Mhm.
50-50, and I specialize in doing a lot of the foundational work that early stage companies need to really get launched and get going. So, it's a lot of customer research, messaging and positioning, and figuring out which channels to focus on. So, in terms of what a fractional CMO is, a fractional CMO is basically a CMO who works part time for your business, right?
Right.
And so that's the simplest way I think to understand it. Not every company needs or can afford a full time CMO. In fact, I've done some analysis on this, and if you're below 10 million in annual revenue,
Hmm.
normally it doesn't make a lot of sense to hire a full time CMO because you blow most of your marketing budget on that and you don't
Hmm.
have enough to do anything else, right? So, a fractional CMO makes a lot of sense for earlier stage companies.
And so like let's say it's a hypothetical 1 year engagement. Today's day one. Uh, what you can talk generally as fractional CMO, or you specifically, like what do you normally focus on and tackle in the first 90 days of a brand
Yeah,
new
great.
engagement?
Great question. So the first 9 days has to be all about, in my opinion, the foundations. You got to get the foundations in place. And so, especially early stage companies, most of the time they don't have those foundations in place. So,
Right.
what are your foundations? I feel like there are really four core foundations that you need to define and also have your team, your go to market team, meaning not just your marketing, but your marketing, sales, customer success type teams, all aligned behind those foundations. So, those four are first your audience. Who are you selling to? And a lot of companies sell to lots of different segments. So part of
Hmm.
that is figuring out what are the most important segments, customer segments that you should prioritize. Number two is your offering. Part of that is your product or your service, and part of it is how do you price and package it. If everyone's not aligned behind that, it's really difficult to have a good strategy in place. The third is messaging and positioning. So how do you describe your value and also the market context that exists for that audience? So the more specific your audience is, the more specific your messaging can be. You can speak directly to their needs. And then the fourth is channels. So which marketing and sales channels and motions should you be focusing on? There are too many companies that treat marketing and sales like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, right? They're just
Right.
random acts of marketing. And instead, when you really truly understand your audience, you know what to say and you know where to say it. And those are the channels where you say it.
No. All right. That's great. Okay. So, Tracy, hello. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Okay, Tracy. So, um, tell folks a little bit about you and what you normally focus on or problems you go looking for in the first 90 days when you start an engagement.
So typically what I look for is similar. So
Hmm.
first of all, I help tech companies go to market. I've started and sold companies in that space, so I'm really familiar with the needs and challenges, especially early stage companies that haven't dialed in their positioning or messaging yet.
Right.
And then once I help them grow to the point where they're ready to scale, it's usually time for a full-time CMO to pick
Hmm.
up the baton. And so, what I like to do when I come into these companies is make sure, first of all, that they understand their ICP. You'd be surprised how many don't, or they've never done an exercise in it. Also, with early stage companies in the technology space, often you're selling to your network. So, you're selling to people that know you, they trust you, or sometimes it's your buddy and they want to
Right.
help you out. So what I encourage founders to do when I'm working with them is actually we need to look beyond that, and we really need to understand what this product is for, what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and why should your audience care. So I do a lot of work with them that way. Also, I think it's really important to align the marketing team, the sales team, the CS team, and the product team. And oftentimes, and it's funny because in early stage startups, they're typically smaller, you'd be amazed at how many people are working in a silo. So sometimes you have product building something that the customer really doesn't want. They're not talking to sales, they're not talking to marketing. So I like to pull all of those different pillars together and align them. And then also making sure that there's a roadmap. And so when you're fractional, you're here part-time, really setting those expectations of here's what you can expect from marketing, and here's how marketing is going to influence your go-to-market motion.
No. Well, okay. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's imagine that I'm the CEO at this new client where you've started this new engagement. Okay. I probably had to convince somebody, a board, a committee, my alter ego, right, to allocate spend to bring in a fractional CMO for a year. Because, it's not free. And so how am I not going to be embarrassed? How am I going to make sure that I get maximum value, Tracy, out of that 1 year engagement that I bought a fractional CMO in for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important as the fractional CMO to set and manage expectations and do that from day one. Mm-hmm. You're not there all the time. You need to be available. And, there's certain things that you can plan for, especially in the tech space. There's a lot of unknowns. People are building their hypotheses on what they think is actually going to work out in the market. So I think it's the responsibility of the CMO to set those expectations up front, or with the CMO talking to the CEO and making sure that they really understand, marketing is really big and it's really broad, but here are the top maybe 5 things that I can come in and I can help you with, and map that back to the company's goals. So how am I going to help you achieve your revenue? How am I helping you drive software usage? What kind of budget do we need to spend? Again, with ICP, when we're taking a look at who we're actually going to be selling to, where do they live and what do they care about, and making sure that we are dialing in the marketing channels to hit that target audience. And I think once you're able to do that, usually takes at least a quarter, and you can start getting some benchmarks and providing some results, they start to have a little bit more comfort.
Okay. So, Garrett, I want to invert the question a little bit. All right. So you've had multiple clients at this point for over years. Companies set aside the spend, they budget for a fractional CMO, they bring the CMO in, right? How do they waste the money that they spent on their fractional CMO? What do they do that ends up sort of muting that person's effectiveness or strengths, or what do they not do? And so something can't happen because of that. How do they waste the money?
Great question. So I think one of the biggest things is, like with anything, you get out what you put into it. Mm-hmm. And so as a CEO, if you're hiring a fractional CMO because you don't have time to think or worry about marketing or growing your company, and you want to focus exclusively on other things, it's probably bound to fail, right? Like you are going to hire someone who's going to take over the reins of it. But just like Tracy said a minute ago, you have to be aligned on company strategy to have a good, strong go-to-market strategy, right? So if you don't have good alignment across everyone on company strategy, it's going to be really hard to build a really strong go-to-market strategy and a strong marketing motion. So again, hiring someone just to be hands-off is usually how it ends up failing, right? You need some engagement on an ongoing basis. You need to be bought in. You need to understand why they're choosing to do what they're doing in that role, right?
Okay. Makes sense. And okay, so let's stick with me as fictional CEO for a moment. All right, Garrett. I have a marketing team. Probably just a few lower, junior and mid-level folks, right? And so there may have been supervision or management, but there's never been executive level leadership for marketing. You're the first. So I'm looking at this team that I have on your day one, and I'm trying to project what that team will look like at the end of 12 months. What should I expect? How should that team be different at the end of 12 months with you there, or a fractional CMO there, compared to what they are like today?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 core value adds that bringing in a fractional CMO will provide you if you already have a marketing team. The first is strategic direction, right? Instead of everyone doing random acts of marketing and hoping that they work, right? You're getting everyone aligned and rowing in the same direction, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting that momentum. The second is kind of this flip side of that is team alignment. It's not just alignment across the marketing team, but it's cross-functional team alignment. How do you get everyone outside of even the marketing team, the sales team, the product team, the customer success or support team, all rowing in the right direction and focused on the right things? And so that's really the value that a really good fractional CMO can provide, even if you already have an existing junior marketing team. You know, the truth is you need a plan and a strategy and people to help drive that and keep people aligned. You also need people to execute and create content and run ads and do all the things that are aligned with it. And the best of both worlds is having both of those things. When you hire a junior marketing person and expect them to do the strategy and the execution, it usually falls flat. When you hire a seasoned marketing person, but you don't give them the resources, right, it usually falls flat. So, you know, I really think that the best of both worlds is having that fractional CMO who can help drive that strategic direction, team alignment, and that junior marketing team, whether they're in-house, part-time, freelance, agency partners, to really help drive that strategy forward.
And Tracy, what do you think? I'm looking at my team as a CEO. I'm looking at this marketing team, probably like, 3 or 4 people in it, including someone very junior, and like, even the senior person's probably only been there like a few years. There's like probably one hero on that team. Like they're kind of like, doing all kinds of jobs. How's that team going to be better or look different a year from now with you having been there for 12 months?
So I think it's really important first to put some strategy into place. And again, it's making sure that all of the different arms of the go-to-market motion are aligned and talking to each other, making sure that we're getting rid of some of those silos. It's also putting into place some structure. So if you have, maybe a more of a junior team, and also marketing is so specialized nowadays. Mm-hmm. There are generalists that are out there, but typically I've found in the companies that I work with, when they do have people on a marketing team, they're pretty specialized. So maybe somebody's running the digital strategy. You might have a content writer. Maybe you even just have a graphic designer. And it's making sure that they're operating within a proper framework so that you can drive maximum results. And I think it's really important to evaluate the talent that's on the team as well. That's one of the things that I like to do in my fractional engagements, is take a look at the overall company goals and business strategy, take a look at their ICP and make sure they really know who they're talking to. And then I like to either develop the team so that they are achieving those goals, or that they have the training, they have the skills, or I sometimes leave companies with a hiring plan as well. So, and that's been really valuable for a lot of the CEOs, where I can say, this is what this could look like. So,
okay. So I'm not going to be the CEO anymore. Let's imagine that I'm not Dean. I'm Deanne. I am the 23-year-old most junior person in marketing at this company. This is my first full-time job out of college. All right. And I joined a few months ago. And I'm so new to working and marketing, I had to Google what a fractional CMO was when they told me one was coming in. And so, Tracy, you're going to have a meeting with me sometime this week in your first week. This is your chance to sort of, give me advice. This is my chance to sort of ask for advice. Like, what should I be doing right now? Or, trying to plan my career. What I'm probably going to be in marketing for decades. Like, what do I need to be thinking about now? Or what do you wish you'd known, when you were back 23 and doing this kind of stuff? So, I mean, I don't have the hairstyle to pull off, but you're going to have to imagine.
I was going to say, you're taking me pretty far back in my memories, Dean, to answer that question. So, with really junior people, and I've worked at larger companies where I've had, larger marketing teams, and fractional capacities as well, where, sometimes that is the only marketing person, and that can feel really overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you have this fractional person with a lot more tenure and experience. And I think that can be a little scary sometimes for people. So it's really, disarming them, trying to relate to, I have been you, and understanding from them what are some of their biggest challenges in their role today. What do they love about marketing? Everybody will have an opinion on that, and just getting them to start thinking through where do you want to go? How do you want to grow your career? What does that look like? There's many different aspects to marketing. There's many different specializations. I'm even seeing, on the go-to-market team, sometimes people are transitioning from marketing into a sales type of role as well. So I think it's, just really disarming that conversation, making sure that people feel comfortable, and then, taking a look at what are the results that we can drive today in the role that you're in right now, and how can I help you? How can I put some sort of a roadmap in place for your career to give you exposure to things now that will help you in the future?
Okay. All right. So this has been fantastic, and we're winding down. I was going to say winding up. That would be weird, but I've had a lot of caffeine in the last 3 hours, like a lot of caffeine. Okay. So Tracy, here's sort of like something different. It's a relatively close conversation, right? There's only 3 of us. So what, as a fractional CMO who is like metaphorically, virtually next to another fractional CMO right now, like what, if you could ask anything, what question would you ask Garrett, the other fractional CMO in our little confab here?
I think it would be in terms of running your business. And Garrett, how do you make sure that you have a pipeline of opportunities, fractional CMO opportunities, so that when one engagement ends, you're kind of right back into the next one? I think that would be my question for you.
Garrett, what's the answer?
Can I answer? I answer?
And then you're going to ask her a question.
All right. Well, I think my answer to Tracy's question about, how do you keep your pipeline full as a fractional CMO? The short answer is, I think we're all trying to figure that out. Every fractional CMO, I don't know if anyone has that fully figured out, right? A couple of things that I think has helped me, though, is most of my business, I've been fortunate, right? Most of my business has come through referrals. And so the more time I can make to meet and connect and add value with those people who could refer me is awesome, and it's worked out well for me. So for me, there's a couple of different types of people, right? So I've been referred to clients from other fractionals and other capacities, like a fractional CFO, right, who might come in early stage companies. I've been referred from people who are more marketing execution freelancers. Maybe they do copywriting. Maybe they do paid advertising. Maybe they help you set up or run HubSpot. So I think the more you can add value and stay top of mind for those people, then the more that they'll think of you when there's someone who they come across who might need your services. But the short answer is, I don't think there's one way, and I don't think that it's super easy, because I think everyone is still trying to figure out how to do that. Every small business has the same problem. So,
what about you? Do you have a question for the other fractional CMO?
Absolutely. So, Tracy, my question for you would be, what is the most value that you have received since becoming a fractional CMO? What have you loved the most?
Great question, Garrett. What I love the most, and funny enough, I was just talking about this last night at a client dinner, is the variety of companies and different projects that I get to work on. There's never a dull moment. There's always a new challenge to solve. It keeps me, I would say, even more fresh in my skills, because I need to apply different skills to different companies. Sometimes I have multiple engagements that are going on at the same time. So being able to have that context switching ability as well is really good. So if I'm, maybe blocked because I have to write a piece of content for one client, I can say, oh, actually, I need to take a look at, some reporting for another, and just completely switch out what I'm doing. And I find that it's been really exciting, and it just really keeps my skills honed in, because I'm doing so many different things. And I really appreciate that about this type of work.
All right. I don't normally provide book recommendations for anybody. And the book I'm going to mention here is not like a book about prospecting or keeping your pipeline full, but it's very useful along those lines. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years ago it was written. It's a very slender little volume. You can read the whole thing in like an hour. It's called The Art of Profitability by Adrian somebody. And he wrote a lot of textbooks, but he wrote this little volume where it's just a bunch of tiny little chapters, usually with a diagram, that talk about different profit models, not business models, but inside that, like how's like in almost every business, there's like something that is so profitable that it subsidizes the business. And I think it's like $5 on Kindle now because it's so old, maybe 10, but it's worth checking into because you can like go through very quickly. And like in my case, for my business, I saw a model like 20 years ago when I read the book, and then remembered it, a few years ago for exactly like how to do it, and it worked out like really well. And so, for the sake of $5 and an hour of entertaining little stories about different companies you've heard of, it might be worthwhile to take a look at that book and see if it's at all useful for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks so much, Garrett, and thank you, Tracy, and thanks for coming on episode 77. I can't believe we're already at 77. It's nuts, but I really appreciate this. And thanks everybody for watching. You're probably watching this on a clip if the analytics tell us anything truthful. And so there are lots more full episodes and tons more clips. And so thanks again to Tracy, and thanks again to Garrett. And we